It seems like everyone is playing their wild card in game week 6 of the FPL season. So who should we buy and who should we sell? Let's find out. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of FPL Hall or Nothing. It is Friday, September 27th. My name is Ewan. On today's episode, we're going to go over some best fixtures, who is popular on wildcard, who people are getting rid of on wildcard, some punts for game week 6 that you may want to have on your wildcard if you have some free transfers, and then some captaincy conundrum with a quick My Team review at the end of the episode. But just getting right into it here, after you like and subscribe, or like the video and subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me on X at F1UNFPL. Let's get into the best fixtures and worst fixtures for the next 6 game weeks, starting with game week 6. And this is kind of a great starter point to build your wild card here. So on the left, in the top 5 teams with the best fixtures for the next 6 game weeks, we've got Everton, Brentford, West Ham, Ipswich, and Tottenham. Now, some of those teams are not off to hot starts. Everton, Ipswich, West Ham, not all exactly flying. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been popular. Dwight McNeil has been popular. Michaelenko, now that he's 4.3, has become quite a popular asset in the FPL community as well on X, if you're watching it there. But Tottenham and Brentford definitely have some assets to attack. Dominic Solanke, James Maddison after his 2.0 XGI performance last weekend. Brian Mbuemo. We've got some Brentford Bees on the defense that people are thinking about as well. Flecken as well. So yeah, there's tons of options here at the top 5 teams, but Everton are top with Crystal Palace and Newcastle at home in their next 2 fixtures, then Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, and West Ham. So not a lot of tough fixtures in that run. Same for Brentford here. They've got one tough fixture, maybe I would say. West Ham, Wolves in the next 2 at home, then Man United on the road. Not entirely sure if that's tough anymore. Ipswich, Fulham, and Bournemouth for the 3 after that. West Ham, they have Man United in there. They have Tottenham in there. They have Nottingham Forest on the road. So not super desirable there, and just kind of wait to see how this all shakes out. They just got thumped 5-1 in the Carabao Cup midweek by a 1 point Liverpool A.5 team. I wouldn't call it a completely B team, but it wasn't exactly firing all cylinders for the Reds there. Ipswich, still wait and see there. But Tottenham, they have Man United this week, then Brighton on the road the following week, but West Ham, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, and Ipswich. So not insanely good fixtures, but there's some good attacking options there. The bottom 5 teams here are teams that we are likely to avoid. So Brighton on top here. The news about João Pedro is he is likely to miss this weekend, or he will miss game week 6. So he actually has a red flag in FPL right now. So managers are selling him pretty much in droves, but he can't fall in price with a red flag, or it's very unlikely that he will fall in price with a red flag. So if you have João Pedro, I have him. He's not exactly a priority sell. Like if he was about to drop in price tonight, like without the red flag, I would probably get rid of him. I've got 2 free transfers, but since he's on a red flag, I've got Isaac, I've got Watkins up front. I'm probably just going to end up playing like a 4-5-1 this week and just kind of taking just rolling for another transfer to have 3 free transfers to bring Erling Haaland back in for game week 7, more than likely. Newcastle's next here. They've got Man City this weekend. I don't think Erling Haaland is going to have a tough time with the Magpies, as they still look a little bit jumbled at the back as well. Chelsea here looking a lot better. Brighton and Nottingham Forest in the next 2 games, then Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United, and Arsenal. So that is a pretty killer schedule. So if you're bringing in like a Nicholas Jackson, a Cole Palmer on your wild card, just understand that those could be some short-term punts, good punts, with Brighton and Nottingham Forest at home with the way Chelsea is playing, but it could be quite difficult for the Blues after that. Bournemouth here have Southampton, Leicester, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Man City, Brentford. Those middle 3 fixtures are pretty brutal. Arsenal at home and Man City at home, Villa on the road. So probably avoid the Cherries assets as well. And then Southampton here, Bournemouth, Arsenal, Leicester, Man City, Everton, and Wolves. It's just the Arsenal and Man City fixtures kind of sandwiching the Leicester, Everton, Wolves run. Means that the Seaside Club may not be desirable at FPL. But yeah, Brian Mbuemo should be a pretty big target on wild card, and he actually is. If we go over here to the popular pickup section, these are the top 5 transfers in for game week 6 ahead of all of these people who are either going to activate their wild card, have activated their wild card, or just like using their free transfers. So Luis Diaz tops the list here. He's got 109, almost 109, 891,000 transfers in this week. I think he's on a double rise at this point. 32% owned in the game, 51 points right now, second highest scorer in the game. He's the number 1 ranked midfielder, 2 points ahead of Mohamed Salah. Gabriel for Arsenal here, 20.3% owned, 703,000 transfers in this week, 36 points, and he is the top scoring defender. Part of me, I definitely understand the appeal of Gabriel. He's like, I think he's 6.1 or 6.2 million now. He scored a couple of goals, but like this is also a guy that only scores between 2 to 4 goals every year. So just because they came in back-to-back games doesn't mean that he's suddenly going to score a header every single game. And also, now that he has scored in back-to-back games, I feel like teams are going to double mark him, make him a huge priority on set pieces. And he may just be good enough to like overwhelm that kind of marking and stuff like that. And Arsenal set pieces are probably the best in the league at this point, I would say. And that's definitely helpful for Bukayo Saka, who is 5th on this list here. But part of me is just like, feels like everyone's chasing those Gabriel points. Like Saliba's fine. David Raya's fine, although he is injured. He has a thigh issue, so we don't know if he's going to play in game week 6 either. But I understand the appeal of Gabriel, but I don't know. I'm okay taking him on with like an Andy Robertson. I think Robertson has more long-term attacking appeal. Like in general, the Liverpool left back is going to score more points over the course of a season than an Arsenal center back. And maybe that'll be wrong at the end of the day, especially with the clean sheets. But Liverpool also look like they could like really improve their clean sheets this year. They've already got 4 in the first 5 games. They play Wolves on the road this weekend. So I just have a gut feeling that I'm not going to go with Gabriel. Brian Mbuemo here, 16.3% of teams have him now. 689,000 transfers in, 34 points. That's 4th amongst midfielders. Fantastic, talismanic player for the Bees. No problem there. They have good fixtures. As you saw, they're 3rd on the fixture or 2nd on the fixture ticker over the next 6 game weeks. So there's no reason to not have Brian Mbuemo, especially at his current price point. Nicholas Jackson has been brought in by 606,000 managers. 35 points this season, 2nd amongst all forwards, just behind Erling Haaland by a measly 28 points. So yeah, I guess he can catch up to him maybe by the end of the season if Haaland just misses a few games there. 12.7% of teams have him now, but like I said, short-term punt for Chelsea as they have 4 pretty tough fixtures coming up after this Brighton and Nottingham Forest back-to-back games here. Bukayo Saka comes in. 412 managers have brought him in. I think he's going to be more popular than Cole Palmer. He's like consistently getting returns. Hasn't scored a goal yet this season. 5 assists. 35 points is 5th amongst. That can't be right. He's 3rd amongst midfielders. So there we go in that regard with Bukayo Saka. So those are the 5 most popular players on wildcard this week. But who are people getting rid of? These are the old toys. So Alexander Isaac has been transferred out by 544,000 managers. He's only got 19 points in the season. He's been pretty disappointing. Newcastle have been pretty disappointing in general. He's tied 11th amongst forwards. Diogo Jota, 11.1% rostered. Over 500,000 people have transferred him out, along with João Pedro. They are 11th and 29th, respectively, in the forward. Or Diogo Jota is 29th in midfielders, and João Pedro is 11th with Alexander Isaac amongst forwards. Jota scored 2 in midweek in the Carabao Cup. He did come off around 60-ish minutes, so didn't get the hat trick. So he could start this week. However, I think long term, it seems like they're going to have to figure out how to get Diaz, Salah, and Gakpo in that side, because Gakpo was awesome again on the left wing. just like he was against AC Milan the week before. So I don't think Gakpo's too good to just be like a cup player. He needs to get some Premier League starts as well. And Diogo Jota, despite scoring some goals, scored a couple earlier on the season. He's kind of trailed off here, and the shine is now on Luis Diaz. That doesn't mean that it couldn't flip very quickly for like Diogo Jota to just score a couple of goals this weekend against Wolves, his former club, revenge game narrative, and then Luis Diaz blanks, and everyone's like, oh, I picked the wrong Liverpool midfielder. So while I understand that Diaz looks like he's in the form of his life right now, and he is, I don't think if you're on wildcard, you can just swap him out. That's fine. But for a free transfer, I would maybe just hold on to Jota one more week. João Pedro is injured, like we already talked about. Mohamed Salah, he's in 44% of teams still. 338 fantasy managers or 338,000 fantasy managers have decided to transfer him out despite his 49 points, which is second amongst midfielders, only trailing Luis Diaz by 2 points. He is 12.5 million. I understand that he's expensive, but I'm holding on to him. I don't have Erling Haaland. I'm still kind of planning to bring Haaland in on game week 7. However, part of me is like, already thinking about just having the rest of the season as Hollandless and just seeing how it goes. And I can like use this as a lesson to never go against Holland again. But we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure how long I can last down here in the millions. And then Eze is the 5th most transferred out player in FPL this week. 22% of team, or he's on 22% of teams still. 317,000 managers have transferred him out. 19 points this season, tied 21st amongst midfielders. Moving over here to punts of the week. So usually these are players who are in less than 5% of teams, but I have made one exception this week for Phil Foden. He is in 5.3% of teams. He played in the Carabao Cup. Man City have the early kickoff, so we'll likely get a leak about whether Phil Foden starts. So if you are kind of feeling risky, punty, I really don't mind Phil Foden against Newcastle, 9.3 million. 5.3% of teams have him, 0.45 XGI per 90 in the Premier League so far this season, 3.94 predicted points according to the rotoballer.com rankings. And on rotoballer.com, you can actually find all of our written work, DFS picks, tips, staff roundtable, rankings, all that stuff. So definitely go check out rotoballer.com. James Maddison is next here, 7.5 million. Man United on the road, 4.6% of teams have him, 0.96 XGI per 90, 3.75 predicted points. The 0.96 XGI per 90 looks spectacular, but that is very much boosted up by the 2 XG that he got in last weekend's game. So it's a little bit points chasey, but Spurs do look pretty good. They scored 3 goals last night in Europe as well. So I don't really mind James Maddison as a kind of just set and forget there. As you saw, Tottenham are 5th in the fixture ticker for the next 6 weeks. Declan Rice, 6.3 million. Leicester at home, scored in midweek as well. Pretty good goal. 2.9% of teams have him. The XGI is not really up there, 0.11, but 3.90 predicted points. Sometimes he takes corners instead of Bukayo Saka. He could have Gabriel or Saliba or someone on the end of one of those crosses this weekend against Leicester. So I don't mind Declan Rice either as a punt. Dominic Szoboszlai here. This is kind of based on 6.5 million. Wolves on the road, 2.4% of teams have him, 0.28 XGI per 90, 3.86 predicted points. And I just can't get the thought of what Cole Palmer did to Wolves a few weeks ago out of my head. Szoboszlai in a slightly similar position. I know it's a little bit of a stretch there, but I could see Szoboszlai really tearing Wolves apart and having a field day with them. It could fall to like Luis Diaz or Mohamed Salah getting those returns as well. But on 2.4% of teams, I don't mind Dominic Szoboszlai here. And then Keen Lewis Potter, got to give a shout out to Jamie Steed here, one of our soccer writers over at rotoballer.com. Put this in his differential this week. 0.1% of teams have Keen Lewis Potter. He's 5 million against West Ham. He's only got 0.1 XGI. Had an assist last week, 2.98 predicted points, but wanted to get that on there as a shout out to Jamie because I think it's a pretty good call, and we'll see how it works out there. Going over the captaincy conundrum here, I think it's between 3 guys. People really seem to be off Salah. They're getting him out of his wild card. I'm probably going to go with him. because I'll be watching that game. Saka, Leicester at home, 35 points this year, 0.66 XGI, 7.14 predicted points, according to the rotoballer.com rankings. Salah is next at 5.55, and Haaland is there at 5.15. I guess the models are saying that Newcastle's defense is pretty good. I'm not sure I agree. So if you don't have Saka or Haaland, or Salah, if you don't have Saka or Salah, I really don't mind putting the armband on Haaland. Especially if you're like going with like a Cole Palmer, you're taking a punt on Foden on your wild card, and you don't have these other two options here, and instead you just have Erling Haaland. Perfectly fine with that. So I think all three options are good. I will likely be going with Mohamed Salah, possibly Saka. I don't have Erling Haaland, so that is not an option for me. But all three of these are really good captaincy options. Yeah, and we got a leak about Man City, so you can kind of see how strong that team looks ahead of Newcastle. But if you want to wait until a little bit later in the day, you could also go with Saka or Salah. Going over to my team review here, scored 69 points last week, went up about 900,000 in the world. Captain Salah with 6 points. I rolled my transfer, so no transfers gained or lost. And then on the left here is kind of how my side is going to line up for this game week. I got Verbruggen in goal, Robertson, Konza, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Rico Lewis at the back. Eze, Rogers, Salah, Mbeumo, and Saka in the midfield, and then Ollie Watkins up front with Isaac, Anthony Robinson, and João Pedro on the bench. I put Lewis in there because we're likely going to get a leak about Man City's lineup ahead of their game. I think he's going to have the potential for attacking returns. Newcastle, like, I could put Isaac in there, but if Lewis doesn't start, I'll just auto sub in Alexander Isaac. Anthony Robinson on the road at Nottingham Forest is a really tough fixture for Fulham, so I don't feel super confident in him right now. And I've just got the 5 midfielders there with Ollie Watkins up front. Team is kind of in a little bit of a set and forget it mode as of right now, with kind of a big move probably coming around game week 7 or game week 8 in FPL. But that's going to do it for my game week 6 preview. There's so many wildcard drafts out there that I figured I didn't need to kind of bore you with my version of it. I mean, you could go really templatey. I think a lot of teams have about 10 of the same players. So no worries there. You can go find it on FPLX, and I'm sure you'll be guided in the right way. Seems like everyone is going Haaland over Salah, which is fine by me because I need a little bit of a differential to get back into this thing. So I'm willing to kind of ride out this Mohamed Salah train for a couple more weeks at least, until I fully am pummeled into the ground by Erling Haaland heading into the final 2/3 of the FPL season. Because yeah, we're already at game week 6, so we're pretty much a fifth of the way through the entire season. But don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the podcast, wherever you are watching or listening. Drop a comment below and any wildcard questions, or you can hit me up on X at F1UNFPL. But that's going to do it for the Game Week 6 preview. I will be back next week with a Game Week 7 preview. But once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.